Welcome back. House Speaker Mike Johnson sending representatives home a day early this week as Republican hardliners shut down floor activities. Members, including Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, refusing to vote on any procedural rules that would bring legislation to the floor until Congress acts on the Save America Act. Speaker Johnson met with the president yesterday, who then posted on Truth Social this: House Republicans should unify and stop voting down rules or threatening to do so, giving power to the radical left. Democrats in the House to control what goes up for a vote will make our outcomes worse, not better. No more grandstanding, please, writes the president. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser. He also sits on the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know you've got, fewer than 5 months before the midterm elections. Politico is reporting the House might not come back until mid-July now. What are your thoughts in terms of what gets done here? And what happened this week in terms of grandstanding?
Yeah, we'll be back next week, Maria, come hell or high water. We have work to do. And yes, this stall that was taking place was frankly foolish. We have limited days. We have plenty of good things to do, plenty of singles to hit, and we need to hit some home runs. By the way, the White House was never, President Trump put that post out, but he was never for the stall tactic. We needed to get some things done. We had appropriations to get done, and we had a bill, which is very important to me and many of my constituents, called the Richard Stark Act that needed to get taken care of. So, and then we need to move into Reconciliation 3.0. We got a lot of things to do. But the thing is this, though. What I do respect about what was done here was, and what the president did too, in not signing the housing bill, which I'm quite certain will get done next week, the Senate has got to act. Enough of this. The Senate feels what thinks it's important, but doesn't recognize what the president believes and knows is important. And that is the SAVE Act. They're paying really no regard to that. And just because they want the housing bill to get done, yes, we all do. That's very important. Very important. But the president sent the message that the SAVE Act is also very important, and the Senate needs to understand that.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with the Senate, Congressman? I mean, look, I know that you want to get into 3.0 reconciliation, and the Speaker has also talked a lot about a third reconciliation package to get the Save America Act across the finish line. But there are senators that are questioning if the time is there for a reconciliation package, and it's even possible this year. You know, Senate Majority Leader John Thune told me directly he doesn't have the votes. He keeps saying he doesn't have the votes, but I don't understand why he can't go get the votes, because when Nancy Pelosi would say she doesn't have the votes on something, she would go talk to her constituents and talk to her members, and she would ultimately come back and everybody would be in alignment. So how come Thune can't do that? Yesterday, I spoke with Senator Lummis earlier this week, and she said, yeah, there are parts of the Save America bill that can be passed. Here's what she said. Watch this.
If the president wants to talk about the Save America Act, he's aware, because of Senator Thune's remarks, that we don't have the votes to pass the full spectrum of ideas that fall under the Save America Act. But we probably do have the votes to get certain portions of it passed. So we need to smartly break up Save America Act and get those components that we can get passed that will make a difference enacted.
So what would make a big difference? I mean, would you expect that having ID to vote and proving your citizenship will fly going into the midterms? Do you think you could pass something like that?
Yes, I think that we could pass something like that.
So what about that, Congressman? I know the House passed the Save America Act a while ago. What else can you do in the House to get the legislation moving? You're right, it's the Senate.
Well, we can do it again. Now, the Senate has not voted on what the senator was just speaking about, just that small portion, citizenship for registration and voter ID. So they've not actually voted on that. Thune needs to make it happen. And look, you got these 3 or 4 senators, Maria, that are trying to save themselves. Well, they're going to sink all of us along the way. The American people expect results. And there's one thing that the Democrats want above all else, and that's to control elections. And that's why they're going to fight against the SAVE Act tooth and nail. They'll die on that hill. And you know what? The president knows that. So the SAVE Act is very important. We actually can get it done. We can get it done on its own. through a filibuster blow up, which is a traditional thing in the Senate. It's very sacred. It's really never been done before for legislation. So I get it.
Yeah.
We know damn well, though, that the Democrats will blow up the filibuster, given the opportunity. They tried to last time, but put it into reconciliation, end of story, even if it's just voter ID. Let's show some progress for what the president and the House feels very important. And then we can get some of these other things done as well.
Yeah, well, you
Simple
joined
math,
the president.
not hard math.
You joined the president earlier this week at an event at a Mack truck facility in Pennsylvania. And the president touted the economy, which, of course, is top of mind for voters headed into the midterms. So what are you doing in Congress, you and your colleagues, to make things more affordable? I know you also met with Kevin Warsh as well, the new chairman of the Federal Reserve. Tell us what your takeaway is from those meetings and the time with the president this week.
Yeah, thanks. And I did have some good time with the president. Of course, in Macungie, in Lehigh Valley, Ryan McKenzie's district, huge turnout, lining the streets, all the things you expect. His straight talk gives people hope, gives people trust. I mean, it's very, very good. And look, our economy is in very good shape. Ask small business. Look at the data. Look at the surveys. Look at the me search that I do when I talk to small business and families. Family wages are up. Tax returns are up. A lot of good things happening. The affordability issue. That's our what we have to contend with and overcome. And that this housing bill that we had was a step in the right direction. But it's all about growth, Maria. It's all about supply side economics, really. My conversation with Fed Chair Warsh this week, he was in my office. We had a great time together. I think he's the perfect, and I mean perfect, Fed chairperson. He's a hawk on inflation. He's got different ideas on how to handle inflation, QT, minimizing that balance sheet. But he's very pro-growth. He gets the basic economics of the more the supply, when supply exceeds demand, pricing comes down. And that's all part of the America First agenda that Jerome Powell, frankly, never really understood. And you know what? We're going to see more. We're going to see more of a CEO. He's going to be a CEO. He's got a plan for running the Fed, not running the economy, hitting the mandates and mission of the Fed, but not running the economy, but running the Fed in a professional
way. What did he say about a potential rate hike?
Well, really not going to get into that, and nor did he. But you know what? Honestly, I do not foresee at all this Fed chairman and the statements that I just made talking about a rate hike or considering a rate hike. We're fine where we are. What we're going to be looking at is hopefully by September a rate reduction because gasoline, gas at the pump, and some food prices related to energy costs because of the Iran conflict are going to come down.
Yeah. No, I only asked because Bank of America is telling clients they're expecting 3 rate hikes this year. 3 this year.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah. Okay. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Maria, you are the best. Thank you so much.
You're the best. Thank you, sir. Dan Meuser joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.